Hello, everyone. Imagine spending years learning English, memorizing grammar rules, watching endless videos, understanding almost everything people say. But the moment someone looks at you and asks a simple question in English, your mind suddenly goes blank. Your heart beats faster, your hands feel cold, and even the easiest sentence becomes impossible to say. This is the hidden struggle millions of English learners face every single day. The painful truth is this: most people do not fail because they are bad at English. They fail because their brain was never trained to live inside English. Many learners know hundreds of words. They understand grammar. They can pass tests. They can read books and subtitles. But real conversations still feel terrifying. Why? Because their brain is doing too much work before speaking. First, they think in their native language. Then, they search for English words. Then, they check grammar in their head. Then, they worry about mistakes. And by the time they finally try to speak, their confidence is already gone. Imagine someone asking, "How was your day?" The answer should be simple. But inside the learner's mind, a silent battle begins. How do I say this correctly? Which tense should I use? What if I pronounce something wrong? What if people laugh? That pressure destroys fluency before the sentence even starts. And after enough embarrassing moments, many people slowly start believing something dangerous. Maybe I'm just not talented. But talent is not the real problem. The real problem is translation. Most learners are trying to build every English sentence through another language first. Their brain treats English like a puzzle instead of a natural form of communication. That creates delay. And delay creates fear. Think about how children learn language. A child sees an apple and hears the word apple. The brain connects the sound directly to the object. No translation, no grammar analysis, no fear. That direct connection is what creates natural fluency. But most learners never build that system. Instead, every English word becomes connected to another language first. That is why speaking feels slow and stressful. Now imagine a different approach. Instead of translating the word chair, you simply look at the object and say, chair. Instead of translating emotions, you connect directly to the feeling. You feel tired and immediately think, I'm tired. You feel hungry and naturally say, I'm hungry. At first, this feels strange, but slowly, the brain begins creating direct English connections without needing translation. And that is where real fluency begins. But there is another hidden problem most learners never notice. Their brain almost never hears English during normal life. Think about it carefully. A person may study English for 1 hour a day, but hear their native language for the other 15 hours. Their music, conversations, social media, television, friends, and environment are all in one language. Then they wonder why English still feels foreign. The brain always becomes comfortable with what it hears the most. That is why immersion changes everything. Imagine hearing English while cooking, while walking, while cleaning your room, while traveling, while relaxing before sleep. Not as study time, as normal life. At first, the sounds feel fast and confusing. Native speakers seem impossible to understand. Sentences blend together like noise. Many learners quit during this stage. But something important is happening inside the brain. Even when understanding feels low, the brain is still adapting to rhythm, pronunciation, tone, and sentence patterns. Just like eyes slowly adjust to darkness, the brain slowly adjusts to English sounds. Then, one day, something surprising happens. A simple sentence suddenly becomes clear without translation. Maybe something small like, "It's going to be a beautiful day." For fluent speakers, this means nothing special. But for a learner, that moment feels life-changing. Because, for the first time, the brain understood English naturally, without stopping, without translating, without fear. That single moment creates hope again. But understanding English is only one side of the battle. Speaking is something completely different. Many learners understand far more English than they can actually speak. Inside their mind, sentences exist, but their mouth still feels blocked. Pronunciation feels awkward. The rhythm feels unnatural. Confidence disappears the moment they speak out loud. And this is where most learners become trapped. They continue listening. They continue studying, but they almost never train their mouth to move naturally in English. That is why some people study for years but still hesitate during simple conversations. Their ears learned English, but their mouth never did. And soon, the next breakthrough begins with one powerful realization. Fluency is not built silently. It is built by speaking, repeating, struggling, failing, and training the brain and mouth together until English finally starts feeling natural. Most learners believe listening is enough. They watch English videos every day. They understand podcasts. They memorize vocabulary. But when it is finally time to speak, their mouth freezes. The problem is not knowledge anymore. The problem is training. Imagine a person who watches fitness videos for years but never exercises. They may understand every workout perfectly, but their body still remains weak because understanding alone never builds strength. Speaking English works the same way. The mouth needs training. The tongue needs repetition. The brain needs automatic patterns. Without that, conversations always feel stressful. This is why many learners panic during real interactions. Someone asks a simple question. Their brain understands it immediately. But before answering, fear enters. What if I sound strange? What if my pronunciation is bad? What if I make grammar mistakes? That fear creates hesitation, and hesitation destroys fluency. One of the biggest mistakes learners make is staying silent too often. They listen constantly but rarely speak out loud. They read subtitles quietly. They study grammar silently. They repeat words only inside their head. But real fluency is physical. English is not only something the brain understands. It is something the mouth must learn to produce naturally. That is why shadowing becomes so powerful. Shadowing is simple. You hear a native speaker and repeat immediately like an echo. Not after 5 seconds, not after translating, immediately. At first, this method feels uncomfortable. The speaker sounds too fast. The pronunciation feels impossible to copy. The mouth struggles to keep up. Many learners stop because they think, I sound terrible. But sounding terrible in the beginning is normal. Every fluent speaker once struggled with basic sounds too. The difference is that fluent speakers continued practicing after the uncomfortable stage. Imagine listening to a short sentence like, "I'm really excited about this opportunity." The first attempt may sound broken and unnatural. Words may be missed. Rhythm may feel awkward. Pronunciation may sound weak. But after repeating the same sentence 20 times, something starts changing. The mouth slowly relaxes. The sounds begin connecting more smoothly. The brain starts predicting the rhythm automatically. This is how fluency grows. Not through perfection, through repetition. Many learners jump from one video to another every day searching for new content. But fluency is often built faster by repeating the same short audio many times. Because repetition creates automatic speech patterns. The brain stops treating the sentence like a difficult task. It starts treating it like something natural. That is why actors rehearse lines repeatedly. That is why musicians practice the same section again and again. Repetition builds muscle memory. And speaking English also depends on muscle memory. There is another important reason shadowing works so well. It teaches rhythm. Most learners focus only on words and grammar, but native speech is deeply connected to rhythm, emotion, stress, and flow. English is not spoken word by word like a robot. It moves like music. That is why some learners use perfect grammar but still sound unnatural. They learned rules but never learned flow. Shadowing trains the brain to feel English instead of analyzing every sentence. And slowly, confidence starts growing. Not because mistakes disappear completely, but because fear becomes smaller. Then another transformation begins. The learner notices something surprising. English starts appearing inside daily thoughts. Small moments suddenly happen in English naturally. Where are my keys? I need some water. This weather feels nice. Simple thoughts, tiny sentences, but these moments are powerful because they show that English is entering real life instead of staying trapped inside lessons. This is where many learners experience a major breakthrough. Instead of using English only during study time, they begin living with it mentally throughout the day. Walking becomes practice. Cooking becomes practice. Waiting becomes practice. Every normal activity becomes part of language training. At first, the brain still tries returning to the native language constantly. That is normal. The brain always chooses familiar paths first. But with daily repetition, a new habit slowly forms. And then something incredible starts happening during conversations. The learner hesitates less. Sentences arrive faster. Translation slowly disappears. English no longer feels like solving a difficult math problem. It starts feeling more natural and automatic. But even after all this progress, one powerful fear still remains hidden deep inside many learners: the fear of judgment. Because practicing alone feels safe, real conversations do not. A person may speak confidently in their room, but become nervous immediately in front of others. One laugh, one correction, one embarrassing moment. Sometimes that is enough to destroy confidence again. This fear causes many learners to shrink themselves while speaking English. They speak quietly. They apologize constantly. They avoid eye contact. They use only very simple sentences to stay safe. Not because they are incapable, because they are afraid. And that fear creates an invisible wall between the learner and fluency. The next transformation begins the moment a person stops trying to sound perfect and finally allows themselves to sound real instead. The biggest change in fluency does not happen in vocabulary. It happens in identity. Many learners still see themselves as people trying to learn English, and that mindset quietly controls everything. When they speak, they already expect mistakes. They already expect embarrassment. They already expect judgment. So their body reacts with fear before the conversation even begins. The voice becomes quieter. The shoulders tighten. The brain starts overthinking every sentence, and without realizing it, the learner creates their own limitations. This is why two people with the same English level can sound completely different. One speaks slowly but confidently. The other knows more grammar but freezes under pressure. Confidence changes communication more than perfection ever will. Imagine entering a conversation already believing, "My accent is terrible. I sound stupid. People will laugh at me." The brain immediately enters survival mode. Instead of communicating naturally, it focuses only on avoiding mistakes. That pressure destroys fluency. But imagine a different mindset. Imagine speaking with the belief, "My English does not need to be perfect to be valuable. I am allowed to make mistakes while growing. My voice deserves to be heard." Everything changes. The body relaxes. The mind becomes calmer. The mouth moves more freely. This is why fluency is deeply connected to self-perception. Many learners spend years improving grammar while secretly destroying their confidence every day with negative thoughts. And slowly, those thoughts become identity. I'm bad at speaking. I'm too shy. I'll never sound fluent. The brain believes repeated thoughts. That is why changing internal language becomes so important. Instead of saying, "I can't speak English," a learner starts saying, "I'm improving every day." Instead of, "My pronunciation is horrible," they begin saying, "My pronunciation is becoming clearer with practice." These small mental shifts seem simple, but over time, they completely change how the brain reacts during conversations. Then, another powerful habit appears: speaking emotionally instead of mechanically. Many learners speak English like robots because they focus only on correctness. But real communication is emotional. Native speakers do not only exchange information, they express excitement, frustration, humor, curiosity, gratitude, surprise, and personality. That emotional connection is what makes speech feel alive. Compare these two sentences. "I like music," and "I absolutely love music. It changes my mood completely." The grammar difference is small, but the emotional energy feels completely different. Fluency grows much faster when learners stop speaking like students and start speaking like real people. This is also why imagination becomes a powerful training tool. A learner begins imagining real situations, ordering coffee in another country, introducing themselves confidently, answering questions during a job interview, telling a story while others listen carefully. The brain reacts strongly to imagined experiences, and when those situations are practiced mentally again and again, real conversations become less frightening. Then comes one of the most important transformations of all: learning English through English itself. Most learners still depend heavily on translation. Every new word immediately becomes connected to another language first. That habit keeps the brain trapped between two systems. But real fluency grows faster when English definitions become part of learning. Imagine discovering the word confident. Instead of translating it instantly, the learner reads, feeling sure about yourself and your abilities. Now the brain is building meaning completely inside English. That creates direct understanding instead of constant translation. At first, this feels difficult. The brain becomes tired quickly. But slowly, something incredible happens.
English starts connecting to English naturally. Words build relationships with other words. Definitions become easier to understand. Thinking speed increases, and translation slowly disappears from the process. This is the moment many learners finally begin feeling true progress. Not because they suddenly became perfect, but because English stopped feeling foreign. It became familiar, comfortable, alive. And eventually, one final realization changes everything forever. Fluency is not a destination. It is a daily lifestyle. It is built in tiny moments most people ignore. Listening during walks, thinking in English while cooking, speaking out loud when nobody is around, repeating sentences until they feel natural, continuing after embarrassing mistakes, practicing even on days when motivation disappears. That consistency rewires the brain slowly over time. Many people search for secret shortcuts, perfect methods, perfect apps, perfect courses. But the truth is much simpler. The brain becomes whatever it experiences repeatedly. If English becomes part of daily life, fluency slowly becomes inevitable. Not overnight, not magically, but naturally. And one day, something surprising happens. A conversation begins, and there is no panic anymore. No long translation process, no freezing, no fear controlling every sentence. The words simply arrive, naturally, calmly, automatically. That moment feels unbelievable at first, because the person suddenly realizes something powerful. English is no longer just something they study. It has become part of who they are. And that is the real transformation most learners are truly searching for.